Happy Tuesday to you, everyone. Hope you're doing well as usual. You know, I always kind of digging around in my little library at home and my old books I used to have and journals. I've got tons of them. They're everywhere. And half the time I'm going through these things, I'm wondering, is that something I should talk about on the 365? Would this be important to dog owners to know? So many times it's just science and it is just way above where we all want to be at this present moment. We all want to kind of keep a simple, stupid rule, so therefore we can apply whatever it is that we're learning on the 365 to our dogs and our dogs' training and just bettering our lifestyle. That's the whole point behind this thing. But there is something that's really important. It's got a fancy name, and I want to talk about today. It's called safety signal hypothesis. Safety signal hypothesis. So what is safety signal hypothesis? So I'm just going to read it straight from an old journal that I used to have right here. So again, you can't make this science stuff up. This is real science, and this comes from the Behavioral Neuroscience Journal, volume 118. And it states that when an animal or an organism can predict threat, because it is signaled by a cue, the absence of the threat signal comes to predict the absence of danger. That is safety. In other words, until you hear that signal, it's all clear. Remember back in World War II, you used to hear about the bomb sirens that would go off? Yeah, people could relax until they heard those things going off. Seemed like a tornado warning. You kind of relax, and then all of a sudden you hear that warning go off, and then when the warning does, you take shelter, and then all of a sudden you get this all clear signal. Yeah, there's this thing called predictive information, and I've said it many times before. Good news, bad news, which devil's worse, the one you know or the one you don't know? It's the one you don't know. Predictive information gives us a sense of control. And anytime we have control, whether it's us or our dogs, now we're going to relax more. So this thing goes on to say, again, let me just reread that first part. When an organism or an animal can predict the threat because it is signaled by a cue, the absence of the threat signal comes to predict the absence of danger. That is safety. However, when aversive events are not signaled, they become, in other words, unpredictable. The periods of safety are also not signaled. And in the absence of periods of safety, the organism remains in a state of chronic anxiety and sustained anxious anticipation. Now, this safety signal hypothesis has been studied for years. In fact, this report was in 2004. But it's over and over again with lab rats. And why do we study lab rats? Because their brain, the similarity between our brain and their brain, continuity, that's the default. That's why you would study fear in a rat amygdala to try and help humans with phobias. It's why we do what we do. Well, this really comes into play because you have so many people who say, I don't want to use aversive stimuli. I'm not going to use that. I don't punish my dog. I'm never going to punish my dog. But you know what? If you live with a dog long enough, you're going to do that. Whether you say you do it or not, whether you admit it or not, you still do it. Living with an animal underneath your feet will require you at some point in your life to say, no, stop it. You're killing me. And any of that can be quite legally defined and scientifically defined as an aversive stimuli. So therefore, because we're all going to do it, whether we admit it or not, because if not, then you might as well not even have the dog, because dogs interact with their environment, you interact with your environment, you interact with your dog, and at some point, the two of you aren't going to agree on something. And that's just the truth. So admit it. And I can't stand it when people say I do all positive, and then they turn right around me and the dog jumps on them, they push the dog off, and I go, what the heck was that? They go, oh, well, that wasn't punishment. That was just me removing my dog from me. Oh, give me a stinking break. Okay, so here's the deal. We're going to do it. And because we're going to do it, if you want your dog to relax, to have moments in life where, man, I'm good. If you want to give the dog a sense of control, which is valuable, we've already learned that. We've learned that from the pandemic. This thing came along, we had no predictive information, no predictability. We still don't. So now we don't feel like we really have control. We feel like maybe we're getting a wee bit, but we really don't feel like we're in control. So good Lord, nature just parked the most wonderful example that she possibly can. Yeah, it's dark. Yes, yeah. Skip all that stuff there. We all agree it's horrible. People are dying from it. But as a teaching example, there you go. Look what happens to us when we can't predict something. We feel like we have no control. And therefore, if you're going to use aversive stimuli, which I've already stated that you will make sure that it is prefaced with a signal. A signal. Give it to the animal, because that would become known as phasic fear. Even if they're afraid of it, it's phasic. It only lasts for a certain little phase, a certain little moment. And then if they come to recognize that that signal equals that thing, that whatever that is, that no, that snap on the leash, that electronic collar, it doesn't matter. Once they pair the two events together, then if you give them the cue, the threat cue, they have an opportunity to avoid it altogether. Just avoid it. Just do something that you find desirable that means you would not follow up with the cue. You would wait. So those of you who want to correct your dog with a leash, or whatever means you wish to correct your dog for an undesirable behavior, in the beginning, after you accomplish what we call intended pairing, again, it can also be natural, but intended is where we intend for the animal to associate whatever it is we're doing with them with whatever signal we're giving them. Case in point, let's say you're teaching a dog to sit. You can take a treat, which is at that moment an unconditioned stimulus, because it's food. It's food. You don't need to condition it. I know what to do with food. You take this food and you say, sit. Okay, the dog's never heard the word sit in his whole life. So that's a neutral stimulus. I don't even know what that means. What the heck does sit means? But you rock it over the dog's head, and soon their butt hits the ground. And when it does, you give them that treat. Enough of those, and next thing you know, the dog has made an intended pairing. I've paired the unconditional stimulus, the food, with the neutral stimulus, the treat, with the act of sitting, with the word sit, and now all of a sudden the word sit over a period of time will become a conditioned stimulus. Well, the same thing happens with a correction. You tell the animal, sit, the animal does it. Right after that, you correct. The animal sits, correction goes away. Okay, I got it. I'm good. Now you taught me something. You say sit, if I don't sit, that happens. But if I do sit, that doesn't happen, and quite possibly, I could get a treat. That is an animal who walks this planet relaxed. You would be relaxed. They do. You gave them control. I know how to control my situation. I know. It's like negotiating through a minefield, but every single one of those mines are above ground. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, but here, let me step over that one. I got that one good. What about this one over here? I'm going to avoid it. There's nothing like control. Nothing like it. And when you make it very clear to the animal, here's a signal. Beep, no, whatever it is. And when you stereotype the signal, and you follow it up with a stereotyped response from you, a sensation to the animal, whether it's auditory, whether it's haptic, it doesn't matter. The animal will pair the events together. And then if you apply safety, signal, hypothesis, you will avoid your animal becoming in a state of contextual fear. Might as well just written perpetual, because you never know when it's coming. You never know. Many studies have been done on this. They've done it with the rats. They put them in cages, gave them tiny little shocks, and they just gave them to them randomly. And over 3 days, they measured their stress response, their resting blood pressure, glucose levels, you name it. They did everything, found the thing was through the roof. So then they gave a warning buzzer, bing, or a little bell, and a second later, then they applied the little static shock. And lo and behold, 3 days later, man, they didn't change the intensity of the static shocks. They simply just gave a little bell 1 second before they gave him the little static shock. Blood pressure down, relaxed, stress response gone, vacated. Why? Because they knew, hey, unless I hear that sound, I'm good to go. I can relax. The same thing with your dog. Hey, I can go about, explore my world like intelligent mammals do. I can learn through mimicry. I can apply latent learning. I can see enhanced stimulus. I can engage in object play, social play, locomotor play. I can do all the things that dogs do, and I can do it relaxed until I hear the warning threat cue. And then when I hear that threat cue, I know what to do to avoid the threat itself. So guys, that's known as safety signal hypothesis. It works with humans. The study, in fact, the study was about humans, actually. Humans suffering from PTSD. So you go through the thing. It's really long. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But I tell you what, I will go ahead and just skip to the very end of it. So at the end of this long study, let me just read the results. Okay, in summary, the present results show that predictability influences startle responses during aversive anticipation in humans. It influences, and it goes on to say influences in a positive way. I'm not startled anymore. I never get startled. I know what's coming. Even if it does come, I just go, okay, it's over. Good, now let's move on. Yeah. And then it goes on to say, unpredictable danger leads to a more sustained level of anxiety than predictable danger. Okay, so in summary, real quick, no one can live with a dog if they interact with it. They certainly can. They just put the darn thing in a cage and treat it like livestock. But if you interact with your dog, then there's going to come a moment in which your dog will do something that either hurts you, upsets you, or you're trying to do something to prevent it from becoming injured. And in the course of doing that, you will have to make it stop. That's it. Not ask it to, but make it. Stop that. You will have to do that. And to make that happen, because the animal is going to continue on with this behavior, there has to be a reason for the animal to stop whatever it is engaged in at that moment. Give me a reason. I tell it to you all the time. Tell me what you need me to know, and why should I do it? And so therefore, you're going to be applying aversive stimuli. But those people who apply it unpredictably, here and there, scattered all over the darn place, they create an animal who's in perpetual state of anxiety because I never know what's coming. I never know when one of these acts is going to blow up in my face. But the other guy who's getting trained by Bryan, yeah, wow. No wonder he's so cool like Captain. You see Captain all the time in my videos. He's totally relaxed. Sometimes I think almost too relaxed. He is, because he knows. I will warn him if he's doing something I find undesirable, something that's dangerous to him or to anyone else, what have you. I will warn him. And the warning that I've given him earlier in this training, through the use of an irritant level, not a correction level, but just some sort of signal level that I stereotyped, he paired that with what could come next. And because I've done that, I honestly, I don't know. I think maybe I've corrected Captain for doing something, I don't know, maybe less than a dozen times in the last year and a half. It's the truth. Ask anyone that's around me. Ask people around me on a daily basis, or pretty much on a daily basis. You guys are. Yeah, you see me correct them in my videos. He's munching on grass one day. Drive me crazy. I'm trying to do a video. I say, no, stop it. Stop it, no. And then he looked at me and he stopped. Had he not, you probably would have seen me just step off the video for a second, get it done, then I would have been back. But I didn't have to. And guys, everything that I teach to you, that I make the effort to pass to you on these every day, I told you we're getting the new puppy. It should arrive about the third week of January. And this puppy's raising this puppy in our household with other animals, with us, going to mountains and coming back into cities and all this sort of stuff. In other words, everything that I'm putting out into 365, I am going to apply to our puppy. Well, mostly Kira is. She hates that, but it is what it is. It's her puppy, and I want her to document this for you. and see that we have to practice what we preach. And I'm telling you what, I am a huge proponent of safety signal hypothesis. I was raised that way by my mentor. I knew well in advance if I was going to be in trouble. Same thing in the military. They apply safety signal hypothesis like no tomorrow. It's called the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It's called not being promoted. It's called getting the worst job you can possibly get on the holidays. They have ways to make you bend. They do apply aversive stimuli. It's part of life. And if no one will apply it to you, the world will. So you just got to overcome it. You got to learn from it. You got to learn how to avoid it. And the only way you're going to learn how to avoid it is if someone bothers to give you a little bit of a warning ahead of time. Then you can do something about it. But man, when you sit there and go, no, and snap that leash at the same time, I had no chance to avoid it. That's no safety signal hypothesis. No, I get that you said no, but it came at the same time. So if you want to do safety signal hypothesis, you must give the warning about a second before you follow up with that aversive event. And if you do that, I promise you, you will not have to correct your dog very often. And if you do, it's usually for something new, brand new. You're going, what the heck is that? And even then, you still got to warn, right? Okay, I don't even know what that is, but let's tell you what, let's just go for that little general stereotype. No. How about that? Or just leave it. Then I'll figure out what it is. And if it becomes consistent, well, then I'm going to apply a command to that. I am going to teach you a whole new word just for that particular situation. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what you're going to do. And we're going to have dogs walking around here on this planet that can exhale for a moment. Relax. Until the threat cue goes off. And then you need to be alert and you need to be doing something to avoid the following aversive event. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to kind of dovetail off of this thing into something else I need you to understand. So again, pay attention to this video because I'm going to use it a little bit tomorrow to talk about rewards and punishments. How we can end up overdoing them both. Yeah, you didn't think of that, did you? You can actually over-reward your dog. Absolutely, it can be every bit as harmful as overcorrecting your dog. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Again, hey, I just want to apologize here at the end for the audio. I don't know if it's working today. I don't know how it's working. There is a very apparent issue between Facebook and the use of any external mics. It's not just my issue. These mics are working fine. They're made by Rode, R-O-D-E. They're incredible. And Rode has spoken out saying our mics work, which we have proven it on videos, not on live events, not on streaming, but on videos. They work like a champ. But now all of a sudden, ever since a recent update that occurred with iPhones, the Facebook app won't capture the external microphone. They just keep plugging it right into, just skipping that and making you use the microphone that comes with your phone. So I'll just stand closer, and I talk pretty loud anyway, and hopefully you guys can hear me. It just may not be that nice, rich quality that we all grew accustomed to, but I'm not the only one. There's already hundreds of people writing in and complaining and waiting to hear if anybody does anything about it. But if not, we'll get it done. Even if I have to write everything on the board and just send it to you in a text, we'll get it done. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Got a busy day today. You guys go get busy, do training, and keep in mind, safety signal hypothesis. It's a really, really good thing. Enjoy your day.